Welcome to Breaking News on Breakaway USA, where we shatter the mainstream narrative by giving you insights that the media will never show you. If this is your first time joining us, thank you. We're going to highlight some story that you need to know about. My name is Fabian Garcia, and alongside me, we have Kevin Fairs and Mr. David Kate. What's up, David?
What's going on, guys? Listen, I'm excited. We have such an eventful night tonight for you guys with so many great topics. We have to talk about what's going on across these insane college campuses with these massive protests and these tent encampments that they're building. We're going to talk about Germany passes the trans bill. So that's going to be interesting. You have to stick around for that one. NPR defunded. So we're going to talk about the insane bias that we saw in NPR, the whistleblower essentially from NPR, and all the drama that happened there. And you can't miss Kev's quick hits. We're going to talk about Candace, Joe Rogan, Tucker, so much stuff. And of course, if we have time, we're going to have to talk about what happened inside the Congress halls where they were waving a foreign country's flag. So don't go anywhere.
Wonder which one that one was.
Right. I mean, I think you probably know exactly.
It wasn't America's. I mean, like he said foreign, so we know it's not America's. In our Capitol building. Flipping insane.
Right. Well, listen, guys, I mean, so many things that we can talk about first, but I think we have to start with the protests that are happening in Colombia. Now, we've seen it all over Twitter, essentially. Protests are happening across these elite universities, Columbia, Yale, and they've taken it a step further where they're building these like tent encampments essentially, and they're calling them autonomous zones essentially, and they're naming them their crazy stuff. Let's just watch one video real quickly from that. This is crazy, guys, literally. So this is anti-Semitism on campus surges as agitators take over. Police are removing anti-Israel protesters from Yale's campus Monday after a week long of demonstrations calling for the university to divest from military weapon manufacturers. Students at Columbia University also were told all classes to be held virtual on Monday as anti-Israel protesters have taken over the campus, fellas. They've literally taken over an American university. Absolutely insane. Fellas, what do you all think about this?
So this is exactly to the T what happened in China's Cultural Revolution. And I was reading Z Van Fleet. She escaped China, and she now talks about how everything happening is exactly how they did in the Color Revolution. And she said that the protests in China were started by the elite children that went to the elite college campuses. That's where it started. They were the most malleable, and they started disrupting everything. This is exactly what they've done in China. And I did a video on this today that's getting a lot of comments. People are starting to debate naturally whenever you talk about this issue, but it's insane. There's a college professor who had his key card deactivated, and the COO of the campus of the university was right there telling him that he couldn't go in, apparently because of something that he tweeted. You have students that are blocking other students, Jewish students, from going to their classes by making a human wall where they link arms and they don't allow him to pass. And in the video, I posted a picture about this. In 1939, the Nazis did the exact same thing to Jewish students in Berlin. And there's pictures of Nazis holding hands, making a wall so the Jewish students couldn't get through. Like, are these kids that stupid that they don't understand how history works? That in communism, the issue is never the issue. The issue is always communism. Whatever they can do to advance it, that's the real reason they're doing all of this stuff.
Yeah, and there's two things I want to say. First off, to answer the question that Fabian just posed, are these kids that stupid? Yes, in fact, they are that stupid. And here's how I know is to answer the second thing that was said earlier by David is that they're taking over an American institution. Look, here's the thing is they've taken over American institutions a lot longer before just setting up camps now to protest for Hamas. When it comes to liberal indoctrination on our campuses, and I hate to say even liberal because they've co-opted that term. It's not liberal. It's just people that are blatantly for the destruction of America and what it stands for. And America in and of itself is more of a liberal country, liberal in definition, not liberal by the standard of what these wackos are. And so that stupid yes. And in short, the shortest way I can put this is what happens is we have institutions that are telling these kids that they are smart, that they are smarter than everybody. And they are smarter because they have this enlightenment level of worldview of some kind that they can see that Hamas are the good guys, terrorists are the good guys, and that Israel and them are actually the bad guys, and you're enlightened because you don't shower, you don't shave, you burn your bra, and you go on campus and you tell everybody that it's perfectly fine to bomb Jews. That's what's happening on our American institutions. So you're absolutely right, Fabian. This is emblematic of cultural revolutions of the past. This is nothing new. It's just really sad to see that it's happening today like it has many times before.
Yeah, we have this video. This is the one I was watching. And if we can play that video, it's pretty wild. Give us that sound production.
Cody, producer Cody.
Cody
behind the scenes.
We cannot hear anything.
But okay, just until we get the sound going. Basically, this is a Jewish professor that is not being allowed to go in because his key fob isn't activated anymore. And Fabian, who was there standing right there from the university?
So that's the COO of the university, and he's there telling him, well, you can't go in there. And he says, I'm a professor here. Actually, first he said, I'm a Jewish person. And then he said, I'm an American and I have a right to be anywhere I want. You can't tell me where I can be and where I can't be on this campus. And he made a declaration and he went and he showed that the key card did not work anymore. And he essentially says, look, I have 5 lawsuits on my hand right now. I don't want to do this, but what other choice do I have? And, and I saw a lot of the people that were supporting him. They were calling shame on the COO guy. And, this is something. And in the video that I posted today on my Instagram, Fabian Lux, if you guys want to check it out, I said, people always say, especially now, how could the Holocaust have happened? How could we have allowed that to happen? And the exact same things that led to something like that, or that led to it, are happening right now in front of our faces. And almost nobody is calling them out. There are people, but there are a lot of silent people. And the people, if you're silent, you are the reason why, or in the past, you would have been the reason why the Holocaust would have been allowed to be perpetrated, because you don't speak up and speak out against it, and you allow them to just inch closer and closer and closer to some kind of massive genocidal type world that we're potentially going into.
Absolutely.
I agree with you guys so much. And the one thing that actually truly pisses me off is how this is an extension of just the liberal elite class that we've kind of formed here in the United States, because a bunch of these people that are going to these protests are privileged kids that have never had to step outside of the United States and truly experience things that are happening there. They perceive Israel the same way they perceive white people here in the United States, that they are privileged. They are the one oppressing, doing all of the oppressing. That's why, regardless of what facts you'll show them, like Yuri Bezmenov talked about, these people are going to be so demoralized that no amount of facts, regardless, you could even bring them to the concentration camps and show them everything, and they will still deny it. These are the exact type of people that we're working with here on these college campuses, because they deny reality, they deny facts, they don't know what the hell they're even talking about. In their idea, they're looking at a bunch of Israelis as, oh, look at this white demographic, which is hilarious because about 20% of Israel is Arabs, but they see them as like this rich, privileged oppressor that's oppressing these poor brown people, essentially. Exactly the same BLM narrative that you heard here in America. So it's funny what the type of groups that you see are protesting in these campuses. It's a bunch of people that are part of revolutionary organization, communist organizations. I wish I had the exact name for them. Fox News did a great segment on this, but guys, Antifa went from seeing BLM as an opportunity to kind of take over the United States to now they see, oh, a bunch of sheep are screaming this decolonization rhetoric. Let me join them in. So that's what you're seeing on these college campuses.
You know, the one thing I will say that no one's really talking about is that communism's goal is to shatter the current thing, and that current thing is America. So that's all they want. That is success. Anything that destroys the culture, the institutions, anything that makes America America, they want to infiltrate it, and they have, and they are, and destroy it. So I said the same thing about Harvard. Everyone thinks that we won a battle when Claudine Gay got ousted. No, they still won because Harvard is now no longer Harvard. Applications have dropped so low. The same thing is happening now with Columbia. So they don't care. They literally call themselves a virus. The way they infiltrate, they go in and they destroy. They don't care if Columbia is going to be down to the dumps for the next 20 years. That's what they want. It's a beacon of American institutions, and that's what they want to break down.
Well, and just like you were saying, like a lot of these institutions are even now starting to see, and if they didn't see it already, they're absolutely now starting to see it with the with what's going on in these campuses. But we had lowered standards so much. Many schools, even top schools, dropped the SAT requirement from being in their application status. You didn't have to take a standardized test because apparently reading was racist, math was racist, and some people who are just bad test takers couldn't perform well enough, when in reality their GPA also didn't really necessarily reflect that great of a student either. And now there are schools that are starting to reinstate the SAT requirement because
Cornell
they
just said,
realize
Cornell.
exactly. They're realizing they're like, man, we've really dropped our standards so much that now our output is terrible. And that's the thing, is how did these, nobody's asking themselves, nobody is looking in the mirror and saying, how did Harvard become Harvard? How did Cornell become Cornell? How did the Ivy League become the Ivy League? They became the Ivy League because they pushed out top quality performers. Now, there are people that slipped through the cracks that were able to get in based on a name like Bush, but overall, the way they got to where they are is because they've been long-standing institutions that eventually were able to push out top quality alumni.
Well, think about this.
That's how you bring out a school. And then once you start having no top quality alumni and you're just pushing out a bunch of people that, as Charlie Kirk says, look different but think the same, and they all think like idiots, yeah, you're going to be like, man, we really got to step up our game.
Well, here's the thing I just thought about from an economics perspective. Your job is as a university is to market yourself, right? People buy your merchandise, they support your teams their whole lives. So the day they die, they're going to be repping the university that they went to. Now, your job, you're expected to be a booster, to give back to the school that helped you, because they have these massive funds that they create and that they make money off of. But if all your students are so dumb that none of them are going out and being the next multimillionaire or the multi-billionaire for that matter, then where's your money going to come from? How are you going to survive as a school? So they have to think economically, not only the imagery that's being sent from their campus, but also 10 years down the line, these students that we're letting in, they have no standards. They're not going to really do much, we think. And where's the money going to come from in the future? It's going to destroy the schools.
Well, you already have a lot of the people who are funding these schools pulling out their funding after seeing absurd things like this, because like you guys were just all talking about, is that this isn't the Columbia or the Yale that that made it Columbia and Yale in the first place. So, and I told you guys this before we started the show, the people that they accept into Columbia now is like this privileged UPS executive girl that ended up killing two elderly couple in a crash and still got admitted into Columbia University. And guess where they found her? They found her in the encampment, the tent little thing that they were building, their little autonomous zone for Gaza in Colombia. So these are the privileged idiots that they're letting into this universities. And then you have these activist professors that, Fabian, you said it beautifully, they're all essentially rooted in Marxism. They that's their ideological drive, and they're just sprinkling American characteristics on it that are allowing them essentially to demoralize these kids even more and more. And these kids, you know, they grew up most likely rich, and if they're underprivileged, okay, I'll afford them that. But if they're privileged, their parents aren't in the picture anyways that much. So when they go to these universities, it's really easy to brainwash them, to demoralize them. And next thing you know, the kid comes back after a year and they're full-blown Antifa, you know, decolonized Hamazi rhetoric and everything that you can imagine.
Well, and you're forgetting the most important part too, is not only is that all of the shit that they profess themselves, because it's what's being thrown at them. They also, because they didn't have parents necessarily to push a solid worldview onto them at the beginning, and they also struggle with identity, and so they're also coming back with a different, like, snow cone color hair, and now saying that they're a different gender, that they're non-binary, and that they actually or maybe they're a little bit curious and a little bisexual or something like that, because they have no idea who the fuck they are. That's really what happened.
This is the video of that student who they're not letting him go by.
What does the vest give you, like, as far as no authority?
This is despicable. But what I want to know from, you know, being an entrepreneur is who is making all the money selling those little Hamas terrorist scarves, whatever those things are. They all have the same pattern.
I wish it was me. I wish it was me. Like,
and then donate all the money to, like, Turning Point or something.
Well,
you know what's crazy?
Though, because that's the thing. Okay, actually, and I know this is a small tangent, and I want David to speak, but
no, go for it.
But Elvis, this is going to come back, but Elvis Presley,
definitely a tangent.
Colonel Parker, who is the man who managed Elvis Presley, was the one who famously revolutionized the idea of merchandising, because because of how big Elvis was, there were contrarians out there that were like, I don't like Elvis because he's so popular, just as much as we have hipsters today that are like, I don't like this person because they're too mainstream or something like that. So what Colonel Parker did, Elvis's manager, is he sold pins that said, I hate Elvis, under Elvis's brand name, to make them more money. Just as much as I believe we as conservatives should start selling some of the most leftist shit we could possibly think of. So then we have these leftists and make an LLC and call it like Progressive Inc. or something like that. And then we just start funneling that money back into conservative causes. I don't care if somebody wears a t-shirt that says respect my pronouns, Z, Zim, Zer, and I'm a kitty cat. I don't give a shit if that money is going back to be able to fund against that kind of crap.
Yep.
I agree with you, Kev.
There's my tangent.
Hey, and one thing I was thinking about is, you know, these people got like Hezbollah flags, all this Hamas stuff and whatnot. Who the like? You go on Amazon and you can find a Hezbollah flag or whatever. It's it's pretty crazy. But fellas, let's wrap up this topic on Kev's note right there, because that was fantastic. Don't go anywhere. Before we go into this short commercial break, retweet this thing, share it, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you're following us on Breakaway. And if you're watching on Instagram, we're dumping it right now. So go find Breakaway anywhere you can. YouTube, Rumble, we're streaming there. So see you Instagram, and we'll be right back for the next topic.
And that was our sponsor, Freedom Water. Shout out to Freedom 2.0, the best water company out there. It's a movement that's fighting for freedom of speech, ensuring that you stay hydrated with some of the purest water out there, which includes reverse osmosis, O3 ozonated infusion, and ultraviolet water filtration, which takes out all the impurities without using chemicals. So instead of your money going to Dasani and all these crap companies that are paying for sex changes and all these bad things, they help us bring this news to you. So go support them. They have great tasting water and really cool sayings. Like this one says, "Vote for Freedom 2.0." They have tons of other ones. They have a $3 bottle sprayer that sprays liberal tears. So go check them out at freedom20.com
Look,
/USA, and you'll see our page right on there. So make sure you support them. They support us. And also, you'll get 15% off your order if you put Breakaway as the promo code.
they have some great tumblers too. And so, like, if you're out there and you're a white mom about to go to the pool and you want to have like your LaCroix and vodka, but they don't allow alcoholic beverages or something, you
Yeah.
can get your Freedom Water tumbler and put your LaCroix and vodka in there. I'm telling you, this is I was a lifeguard for several years, and there were moms, and we were like, wow, they're getting a lot more fun as the day goes on, and it's because in their tumblers they would hide liquor, and so you could do that with Freedom 2.0.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go get
So,
your
guys,
freedom water.
something big just passed today, and we got to talk about it. And I want to show this because it's really bad for what's going to come after. So we know that in Canada they have their, I think it's called C16, where you
Yep.
can be fined and even in prison if you use the wrong pronoun for someone or on someone. We know that Twitter was banning people for what's called dead naming people, meaning if I want to be called Susie and you call me Fabian, it's called dead naming apparently because it makes me feel wow, like my feelings hurt. But Germany just passed this law. It's called the self-identification law, which does weird things like allow infants to transition. So I need to read a little bit of this.
Infants?
Yeah, it's really weird. Let me read a little bit about this. So it's just passed, I think, like today or something like that. But it permits the parents to alter the recorded sex of children beginning from birth, from the age of 5 years old. So from 5 years old, the parents can do it. They also do this crazy thing like fine you if you dead name someone. So it includes a ban on disclosure that prohibits naming the sex and former birth name of an individual. The prohibition also applies to family members. Anyone who violates the ban on disclosure will face a fine of up to 10,000 euros, which could discourage family members from coming forward to discuss how identity change impacts them. Another thing that they did is that I mean, it just goes on, but this bill, it has a lot of things loaded in there, which is just really
I want to
bad.
wait. I want to watch. Can we watch this video?
Yeah, I know,
can we pull
right?
up
This person
video?
looks really
Oh,
interesting.
All
guy's
I'm
crazy.
thinking of so far is like Hitler just coming back from the. You will not call me Adolf Hitler. You're just like you're dead naming me. Like I just can't fucking believe it. The Germans always find a way to just kill themselves, and this is just. I mean, they did it against German Jews back in the 40s. Now they're doing it against themselves with this gender bullshit. But let's see. Let's see what
Mit
this.
dem
He basically sounds
Gesetz war es so, dass man 2 Gutachten machen musste, bevor man seinen Namen ändern
That's a boy?
kann. Diese Gutachten
No, you can't say that,
gehen
Dave. You
extrem
dead
in die
name me.
Privatsphäre rein.
Also, ich habe eine Dauerkarte für die Südkurve bei Bayern München. Da wurde mir dann vorgeworfen, naja,
What is
wie
this?
weiblich kannst du denn sein, wenn du
Of course, his last
regelmäßig
name
ins
is
Fußballstadion gehst?
wo
Rumpelstiltskin.
andere Leute bewerten, was man selber eigentlich längst weiß, und dann kommt der Staat und sagt, naja, du musst es jetzt aber halt nochmal beweisen.
Ich war halt immer darauf angewiesen, dass irgendwelche Menschen mir glauben und irgendwelche Menschen mich ernst nehmen. So. Das habe ich halt mit dem Gesetz jetzt dann nicht mehr.
Mit dem Selbstbestimmungsgesetz ist es deutlich.
I mean, this is wild
Yikes.
because
That's the
yeah.
funniest thing. I love this story. I'd rather be aborted than transitioned at 5.
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah, this
Fabian,
is
you
wild.
said that this is the bill allows infants to transition?
Yeah. So the parents can start transitioning a child basically from when they're born and change the sex. The child at before 14 years old can do it with his parents if he gets old enough and wants to do it. And after 14, here's one of the scary parts. Is it says that either the parents can approve it or the family court can approve the child's sex change. So a child, this is what I don't like. No, I don't like the whole thing, but this is what's extremely scary. Is and they try to pass it in California, and Newsom vetoed this, where a child who his parents aren't approving of the sex change can go cry to the government, family court, get taken away, and now the court will say, you know what, we're allowing you to do it. Thank you, state
Wow.
of Germany or state of California. And this is another attempt to remove parental rights from parents. In Canada, you had the VP, the vice prime minister or whatever they call it, saying that there are no such things as parental rights. There's only human rights, individual rights, but not parental rights. So they're slowly starting to try to pry the children away from the parents and make them be raised by the state.
Which isn't that, correct me if I'm wrong, Fabian, but isn't that exactly what happens in communist countries where the
Exactly what happened.
state removes the parents essentially?
Yeah. The father of cultural Marxism said himself that the biggest transmitters of culture are the nuclear family, and that in order to break that and break that capitalist idea and mindset, you have to have the state raise the children, have all the children be beholden to the state for everything, for their ability to change their sex, for their food, for their money, for every single thing. That's so you get a population dependent on the state, and the state can do whatever they want because you have no other way to sustain yourself other than allowing the state to do it for you.
I want you to just to think about this, just common sense, if there's any common sense left out there. I mean, an infant, the only reason an infant needs to transition is because the parents aren't happy with the fact that they have a boy instead of a girl, or that they got a girl instead of a boy. I really don't see.
There's other reasons though.
But which one? Because they believe in Santa Claus, so you know what I mean. What are they?
The
I'm
reason
a kid.
is
Yeah, go for
for this belief now that if you have a trans child, it's the new version of, and I don't know if we talked about this the other day on the show on Thursday, or if I talked about this yesterday on my show, but this idea that now trans children are an accessory just as much as it used to be like the purse dog, the little chihuahua, like the thing that you'd carry around. No, now if you have a gay child or a trans child, it's an accessory. It's something you used to be able, even as a parent, you used to brag about, oh, my child's a doctor, my child's a lawyer. Nowadays, you brag about the fact, oh, well, I get to claim like pseudo victim status, or like what would the word be? Like transcendent, or not even tangential victim status, because my child is a tranny or my child. And so if you do it from even that young age, then you get to claim their victim status without ever actually having to face the genital mutilation and the birth or the defects, all the issues that can come with
guys. I think we all got fined like $10,000 if we lived in Germany right now. So
that's
euros.
perfectly fine. I already brought up Hitler, and that's not allowed there either. So,
well,
which is
Instagram
hilarious,
also removed.
honestly.
Yeah,
go ahead, Fabian.
I was just going to say Instagram removed Kevin's video as hate speech, where he was making fun of Dylan Mulvaney. So
yes, it's still up.
They're already on us.
Still up on YouTube if we want to watch it real quick.
I like that they constantly say it's like a good argument it's a shitty argument that they think is really good. They say we need to be more liberal like those European countries, and then you hear these things like that we get fined hundreds and thousands of dollars. I think it's hundreds, honestly, for the conversation that we just had here. Ain't nothing liberal about that. That is just ultra, whatever you want to call it. It's fascist, honestly. You're controlling our language at that point in our.
It's like, hey guys, we need to be more free, so we're gonna put you in jail for speaking your mind. But it has to be because it's gonna be a more free world if we just put everyone who thinks differently in jail. Crazy logic there.
Just to go back about the whole thing that they transition infants and everything like that. The wild thing to me is that they're essentially buying into Big Pharma's trap here, because Big Pharma is the one that manufacture all of these puberty blockers and the ability to transition really at any point. So this, you guys gotta think about the hypocrisy. Progressives constantly scream like, all these, capitalism, blah blah blah, and then you feed right into the hand that literally profits off you being an idiot. Kev, you said that they brag and that this is an accessory for them.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, in some cases, like look at Hollywood, Megan Fox with 5 boys who are now all 5 girls. But in some cases, not in some cases, in majority of cases, I think that they're just mentally ill, to be honest. I mean, maybe they're bragging about it. They're trying to brag about it because they are mentally ill. But I think that's the underlying issue there. And they're just funding Big Pharma to get even bigger now. It's a mess, y'all.
I think there's that. I think along with that too, there's also the hypocrisy of, I don't know how often you guys have been on an American college campus, but I was lectured a lot about consent when I was on a campus, as if every single man, especially not the women pretending to be men, only the biological men, all of them were potential non-consensual. I can't say the word on YouTube, otherwise you get like a strike and stuff. But you know what I'm saying. And so when we get lectured about consent all the time, as if we're all terrible people. But then all of a sudden it's perfectly okay to not receive this child's consent to permanently alter their sex organs. And I don't know. We could talk about circumcision too, but I don't necessarily feel the same way. But that's another one that I know that people would come back at me for. But I mean, we're talking about actually sterilizing children from the point of which they can't even form the words to say yes or no.
Giving them the same drugs the people's name who I can't say because we'll get banned on YouTube receive in jail, so they can decrease their sex drive and everything like that.
Chemically castrate. You're allowed
chemically
to say
castrate.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So
I found the portion in that I wanted to read off this article. So talking about how the children can go to the state. So it says the family court could also issue the consent if the court believes that the change of gender is in the best interest of the child. So this is the exact same law that they're trying to pass in California, where if your parents don't agree with your sex change, you can go to the state and it's technically child abuse. So then the parent would get put in jail and the child will be taken by the courts and put in a who knows where. So it wants to make the parents afraid of the children. This is exactly to talk about Mao's Cultural Revolution. This is exactly what happened. Mao gave the green light to the students to go hit and beat and do whatever they wanted to the older people, the professors, anybody who wasn't touting the communist line good enough in their own eyes. It was subjective to each individual person. Many teachers were killed, beaten, humiliated on the streets by their own students. It's a flip of the script, and this is why this entire thing of not having any rules for your children, like a lot of these leftists do, like talking to them like they're adults, asking them all like, what do you want to do and all this stuff. It's to make the parents afraid of the children, because if you get invert society like that, then who's really running things? I mean, we see what happened at the White House. People are having butt sex in the Senate, Senate chambers. There's cocaine all over the place. This is what happens when the children run the house. And old man Joe is out there eating ice cream. He has no idea what day of the week it is, or probably the year. He thinks his grandpa or his uncle got eaten by cannibals, apparently, like he was saying the other day. It's just, you got to have the adults back in the room to say no.
Yeah, the inmates are running the asylum, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
Yep.
I'm not surprised that out of all places this is happening in Germany. And just one quick thing with them running to the courts to be able to essentially force the parents to do this, or fully take the parents out of the fact here, out of the equation. It just shows you guys what they're trying to do here in the United States. They won't be able to do this, let's say, through state legislatures or not, but the courts, if the courts are corrupted with a bunch of activist judges, then most likely they're going to be able to push all this stuff, because they'll pass the law and then all the court has to do is uphold it, essentially. And there you go. There's all the rights of you having rights over your kids is completely gone out of the window there.
Yep. Well, it's a scary world we're living in, but that's why people like us are fighting to keep sanity and to spread the information that we spread on this show, because the mainstream media will never touch this in a million years. Never.
Nope.
So unless you're listening to us or you're on X or something like that, you're not going to hear about this stuff because they don't want you to hear about it. They want to work in the shadows. That's how they like to do it. And then when you wake up one day and realize you can't say anything, you can't do anything, you can't go anywhere, it's going to be too late. So we're at the forefront fighting for your freedom and ours at the same time. So drink some freedom water.
Absolutely.
Drink that censorship away, basically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Fellas,
Well,
let's take a short commercial break and we'll be right back for another great segment about NPR getting defunded.
Let's do it.
oh, yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. What are you talking about? Here, have some freedom to go. Man, the Constitution is awesome. That's what it is.
Oh, sorry, I was just jamming out a little bit. Yes, NPR, as Fabian was saying, we absolutely have a mainstream media that doesn't want you to know the truth. And here's a perfect example of that. Republicans are pushing to defund NPR over political bias. If you've been paying attention, especially to Twitter in the last week or so, you notice that NPR appointed a new CEO who has been wildly leftist. And when I say NPR, I want to be clear as to what that stands for: National Public Radio. However, they're not just a radio service. They obviously do different print media as well, digital media. And so to appoint somebody who is so overtly liberal has caused quite the controversy. Along with that, at the same time, there was a conservative NPR content creator of some kind who has since been suspended and I believe fired from his position, and for little reason given, and it can only be assumed that it has something to do with his political bias and calling out the new CEO. However, according to the Daily Wire, Republicans now in the House and Senate are pushing to defund NPR, not defend, defund NPR after the now former editor wrote an essay exposing the liberal biases of the outlet, and reports broke on leftist comments made by CEO Catherine Marr. Following Senator Marsha Blackburn's from Tennessee, her introduction of the bill last week to pull government funding from National Public Radio, Republican reps Jim Banks from Indiana, Claudia Tenney from New York, Bob Good from Virginia, who actually represents Liberty University, so heck yeah, Bob Good, all introduced their own legislation to end funding for the outlet. Banks introduced his measure on Friday, taking aim at Marr and calling NPR, quote, low-grade propaganda. And so the important thing to talk about with this is that this is state-funded media. NPR is state-funded media. This is your tax dollars going to what is being said. And so I want to play some clips and I want to talk about not only the story as a whole, but I want to talk about who this CEO is. So I know we have one where this new CEO calls the First Amendment an obstacle. Let's play this clip.
That we see and is, of course, the First Amendment in the United States is a fairly robust protection of rights, and that is a protection of rights both for platforms, which I actually think is very important, that platforms have those rights to be able to regulate what kind of content they want on their sites. But it also means that it is a little bit tricky to really address some of the real challenges of where does bad information come from, and sort of the influence peddlers who have made a real
The influence peddlers. That's a term.
Yep. The influence peddlers. And so obviously you guys heard she described the First Amendment as an obstacle. Now she'll call them rights, but they're also an obstacle. There's something that need to be overcome by the National Public Radio. What are your guys' thoughts?
Man, this sucks because I actually used to listen to NPR like a long time ago, and they had really cool stories. You know, they highlighted different things. I learned a lot about what's happening in Africa or different parts of the world from it. And it wasn't like it is now. I haven't listened to it in 10 years, but it sucks, man, because NPR was, I liked it. And to see another American institution be called, for defunding and people want to destroy it, it's sad because that's exactly what they want. They want to destroy every single
Yeah.
thing. And instead of gutting it out, defunding it, yeah, that's one thing, but then you're just going to push it into the hands of more leftists that are going to start funneling money to it. It's going to be a George Soros network after this, probably already is. But yeah, it's just sad that this is happening.
I'm just glad things like this are coming to light finally, because here's the reality of it. I feel like journalists have abandoned the objectivity so long ago. And finally, things like this are coming to light because, listen, if you want to be CNN, for example, that's fine. You want to put subjectivity above objectivity. That's your thing. That's what you want to do with your reporting. You want to have a political agenda, go for it. But we're talking about NPR, like you said, Kev, state-funded media. And they take taxpayers' money and use it to portray their political bias on it. And the fact is that I forgot what it was, but what was it? Like 97% of the people at NPR have a liberal bias. And that just shows you guys that's ridiculous. There's no room for conservative ideas there. If you want to have a political drive, be neutral, show both sides, right? So that's absolutely fine. But don't use taxpayers' money to quote unquote be a media company that says on the outside that it stands for objectivity. And then we see things like this, that 97% of your writers have a liberal leaning bias. So I'm just glad it's finally coming to light because I hate our money actually funding this BS.
No, absolutely. And there was two things actually kind of three things I really wanted to talk about when it came to this story. And I do have one other clip that'll briefly show a little bit more of this CEO. And if we can get that pulled up, that would be great. But the first thing I wanted to talk about is, so like you said, national public radio is taxpayer funded. Your money is going to this propaganda. We need to pay attention to what that propaganda actually is because we're funding it. The second thing is that propaganda is not just nationally funded. As Fabian said, we worry that this could become a Soros station or something like that. Well, if you guys didn't know, George Soros actually bailed out just within the last 2 months, bailed out the second largest radio chain, Odyssey. Owns over 200. So I've been working in radio since my sophomore year of college, 4 years now. And so I've been very well versed in how small radio actually is of a business. Odyssey, which is the second largest radio chains, over 200 stations in 45 different markets. And to be clear, 45 markets is a lot of markets in the United States, covers tens of millions of people. Odyssey was bailed out by George Soros. These are stations that own or that originally aired things like the Fox News network, which I know some people are iffy on Fox News, but still more conservative than what George Soros stands for. Dan Bongino, Sean Hannity would play things like that, now owned essentially by George Soros. And the third thing I want to talk about after we play this clip, because I have another clip I want to play, is David's new short film that he came out with, because I believe this story perfectly plays into it. But let's play this clip real quick, if we can.
That perhaps for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth might not be the right place to start. In fact, our reverence for the truth might be a distraction that's getting in the way of finding common ground and getting things done. Now, that is not to say that the truth doesn't exist, nor is it to say that the truth isn't important. Clearly, the search for the truth has led us to do great things, to learn great things. But I think if I were to really ask you to think about this, one of the things that we could all acknowledge is that part of the reason we have such glorious chronicles to the human experience in all forms of culture is because we acknowledge there are many different truths.
Pause.
So in the spirit,
that's what we need to talk about. This is the leader of National Public Radio. your taxpayer money, saying
Mhm.
what we need to acknowledge is it's all that lefty bull crap. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, man, it's not my truth or your truth or the truth. It's all of our truths, man. Like, you could believe the sky is purple. That's your truth, man. And if that voice sounds annoying, it should, because that's how stupid people like that sound. And they're on the flippin' radio on your dime.
Yeah. There's two things about that lady. Number one, never trust someone who speaks that slowly and that lightly, right? It's really sinister when someone just talks like this and that's scary. So be aware of anyone who talks like that. Second, that's postmodernism coming out of her mouth. Postmodernism rejects universal truths, grand narratives, everything. It takes what any structure that we've had across the entirety of humanity, and it breaks it all down. For what? Because you can't figure out what's truth or not. So these idiots wrote this stuff, postmodernism, and then Marxists got a hold of it, and they're like, oh yeah, let's kind of incorporate some of that, because then no one can know anything. And if no one can know anything, then we can divide people by intersectional lines, which is what they've done. And now everyone's fighting because there's no universal truth. There's no grand narrative. Everyone's doing their own thing. So how are you going to come together if you don't even know what truth is? And Jordan Peterson says a very good point on this subject. He says the fact that whoever he's speaking to, he goes, the fact that you and I are having a conversation is because we objectively agree that words have specific meanings. That's how we're exchanging information. But if we can't even agree on what words mean, then how are we going to have a conversation? And that really stuck out to me because that's exactly what we're going through now as a country. You call everything genocide. Well, what is genocide? If you think it's one thing, I think how are you and I going to have a productive conversation about that? And that's what they're using, and that's what she's talking about.
Absolutely. David, thoughts?
I agree with Fabian. I think we're going through this crisis right now where they're distorting language, right? And we saw that in 1984, where the power of language, it's so powerful that when you can disagree on the meaning of a certain word or something like that, then that's how we lead into these multiple truths. Anytime you hear multiple truths, that's propaganda, because truth is rooted in some sort of objective facts. And we can have different truths because that means that there's different objective facts. No, most likely your truth, when you say your truth or my truth or whatever it is, it means that that is somehow rooted in your subjective beliefs. It has probably zero factual evidence behind it. And that's what NPR is starting to dip into, which is absolutely scary because seriously, guys, propaganda works really powerfully. We know this. If that they can corrupt the way they communicate with society, then they can portray any sort of message that they want to onto the public. And that's exactly what they're doing. And Fabian, it goes back to what you talk about with communism. That's what they want to do, because if they can somehow start to get it into people's brains that, yes, it's okay if the state has more control over the kids than the parents do, that's how they're able to sell that narrative. And look, It's all rooted on multiple truths, essentially.
Absolutely. And I know that this might tie in just a little bit to some great work that you recently did, David. If we could pull up that clip real quick. This is just the trailer for your new short film that I know just aired on your YouTube channel. Let's take a look at the trailer.
Let's roll it. The Roman Empire ran into a major crisis, the breakdown of the family. The strength of any nation depends upon the strength of the family, which is a fact because the home is the basic foundation of any society. It is the most influential element in national character. Rome grew to become so powerful because early Romans understood this philosophy. Family is where you lay down the groundwork for morality, values, goals, self-control, and loyalty. Like Rome, the United States was built on a foundation of strong, stable families in which the father was embraced as the chief authority.
So we have a national public radio that is now breaking down truth, but we still have an ability through social media, while censored, to get out some level of truth. It seems like you did that. Can you tell everybody a little bit more about what your short film that is available to watch now, what you kind of explore in that?
Absolutely. So The Roman Empire. I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple months ago, it's like a super trendy thing. Everybody was asking dudes how often they think about the Roman Empire. And I'll be honest, I wasn't one of those dudes that was constantly thinking about the Roman Empire, but I found it to be both alarming and eerie at the same time how similar it is what's going on in the United States right now and what was happening during those last few years of the Roman Empire, right before the collapse of the Roman Empire. I essentially build out the film based on three factors. Enormous overspending, spending that we don't have. And that's how that led to monetary chaos, spending on things like subsidizing certain things and on public entertainments and on a big bureaucracy, military establishment. And then I start to go into the breakdown of the nuclear family and how that really impacted Rome itself. And lastly, we talk about how because Romans were living such a lavish lifestyle, they essentially became so elite and so disconnected with reality that they suddenly forgot their basics, which was foreign or border policy. They had border policy just like we're supposed to have border policy, and they neglected their really good border policy, which led to a massive invasion. Which, taking all three factors of together, the economy is down. There's no family concept. There's nothing like that anymore. And there's a huge invasion into your empire. All of that led to the downfall of Roman Empire. And if I didn't tell you guys all those details in there, and we're just talking about the main stuff like that, you would say, God, that sounds like what is happening in the United States today.
Yeah.
So that's where the scary part is that if the best empire, the greatest empire that we've known in history, up until us, the United States, which I believe is the greatest empire now.
USA.
USA. What if they collapse because of this? What leads you to believe that the same can't happen to the US? So I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, but I will. And just so everybody knows, no matter where they're watching from, where can they see it now?
So right now you can exclusively go see it on my channel on YouTube, David Kate, but it's going to be up on Breakaway so everybody could see it. So don't even go to my channel to see it. Just go to Breakaway, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you tuned in and everything like that. Because I mean, guys, that's what the film's going to be. So go support Breakaway by seeing that film there.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Guys, quickly, I want to talk about our Telegram group that we have.
Yeah, do that.
Because if you like news and you like uncensored news, then we started a Telegram group to do that exact thing. There's things, as you've been watching, that we can't say because we just got a strike on our YouTube channel. We're all, off and on shadow bans all the time. This is a group, is a channel that you can join where we're constantly sending out news, things that you can't see anywhere else. So the way that we talk about news that mainstream media won't touch, there we actually post some even stuff that we can't talk about on here. So make sure you join it. You can go scan that QR code on the screen right there, or you can go to t.me/breakaway. Check it out. Join us and get some good information.
The best kind of information.
Uncensored information. Absolutely.
There you go.
Fellas, what do you think? We'll take another quick little break and then we'll go to Kevin's quick hits.
Quick hits.
I'm excited for this one. I'm excited for this one.
We'll be right back after a short commercial break and make sure
Blah, 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 blah. What are you talking about? Here, have some freedom to up. Now, the Constitution is awesome. Take one in.
All right, everybody. Now it's time for Kev's quick hits. Kev's quick hits. Number one. Let's get on into it. Cody, do we have it ready? Producer Cody, we're going to be talking, as you know, about this is Mark Hamill comes out on Twitter. Sorry, I'm just being super gimmicky today. But Mark Hamill comes out on Twitter, says Joe Biden is the best president we have ever had. And this is in response to Joe Biden saying that Donald Trump is the worst president we've ever had. David, quick hit. What's your thoughts?
We need mental institutions to come back if he honestly thinks this. But I agree. Joe Biden is the best president we've ever had, so I might see him in that mental institution together.
Okay, Fabian, reaction to Luke Skywalker.
The original Jedi just lost his marbles, and I think he has to go back to Jedi school because that is not the Mark Hamill I knew.
Absolutely. He has gone crazy. Also, he voiced the Joker. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he voiced the animated version of the Joker. And so he absolutely is a wacko. That is Mark Hamill for the quick hit. Let's get up next. Quick hit is Candace Owens is converting to Catholicism. She's had kind of like, I don't know. I thought this was kind of a weirdly worded post on Twitter. But she says, recently I made the decision to go home. There is, of course, so much more that went into this decision and that I plan to share in the future. But for now, praise be to God for his gentle, but relentless guiding of my heart toward truth. Then she quotes the Bible once again, says Christ is king, which raised a lot of hell about a month ago when she left the Daily Wire for a lot of different controversy. But she's converting to Catholicism. What are your guys' thoughts? Quick hits.
So she's going from Christianity to Catholicism?
I don't know what she was before.
Yeah, I'm confused.
I'd assume maybe like a Baptist or non-denominational, but now she's a Catholic.
I mean, look, I'm always scared when the Pope can tell you what to do, and if not, you get excommunicated because the Pope is a weird dude, man. And that whole situation where he's the only guy that can talk to God, blah, 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 whatever. No, come on.
That's not it. Okay. See, this is where so I'm a Catholic. So like I look at this and I'm so happy because she's joining the truth, the people that actually believe in the truth. And so we're going to have a debate night. That's going to be something that's coming.
Oh, let's do it.
We're going to have debate nights and Catholicism will be one of them. But David, what are your thoughts?
Listen, fellas, I'm just glad to see somebody not converting to Islam finally. So I'm all for it. And look, take a quick tip. If you don't go to jail, you're more likely not to convert to Islam. So there you go. That's my 2 thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Up next quick hit right here. Election denier Stacey Abrams thinks that the attack on DEI is an attack on democracy. Let's take a look and a listen at this clip real quick.
Built into every victory are the seeds of defeat, but also built into every defeat are the seeds of victory. We have seen victory, but we cannot rest on that victory and think that it is impermeable and impervious to harm. What we know is that the attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, is an attack on democracy. It's an attack on education. It's an attack on how our economy works, because what Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff, what Senator Ossoff and Senator Warnock represent are pathways to the American dream. They are proof points. And those proof points scare those who want this world to be more narrow and more restrictive. And so we have to recognize that our opportunity to hold to those successes requires our constant attention, our constant tending. Voting is not magic. Voting is medicine. But it also means that it's a constant engagement, that we can't have a moment of success. We have to keep working constantly at moving ourselves forward.
That's communism right there.
One of the dumbest and ugliest people I have ever seen, who is also an election denier, comes out and says that DEI, an attack on DEI is an attack on democracy. I want to know your thoughts, Fabian, but I want to know first because over here on this side of me, we have a man from Georgia, somebody who is directly related to Stacey Abrams.
Literally directly. I mean, listen, the only attack on democracy is that field goal in the middle of her teeth there. But well, that's for, I guess, another discussion. Listen, I don't know why The View hasn't recruited her. She's perfect for them. She could sit right next to the other idiot there that says, what was it? She blamed racism on climate change or sorry, the solar eclipse on climate change and everything like that. Yeah. So she can go and sit next to her and say all this dumb stuff that the attack on DEI is the attack on democracy. No, our America was built on the fundamentals of merit. So I don't think it's an attack on DEI. But yeah, like I said, the only attack is that field goal.
Absolutely. And Fabian, what are your thoughts?
Attack on everything's an attack on democracy now. Every single thing, unless you buy into the government mainstream narrative. you're attacking democracy. Get the hell out of here. Anyway, the scary part is something that she said, we can't stop. When we get success, we have to keep going. We have to keep going. It has to be everywhere all the time. Communism wants to be top of mind. It wants to be in your mind. So you become a slave. You're always working towards it. Ultra progressivism, you can never be happy. And they talk about this. And neo-Marxists talk about the fact that we can't ever stop. We have to keep going. Even George Soros talks about this, that he says that you have to keep pushing. We don't know where, but you have to just keep going, because you got to keep changing things over and over again so it can become whatever it's going to become. That's very scary language, because that means that you can't ever rest. Just like the whole DEI stuff and the whole anti-racism stuff. If you're white, it's not enough to be just a good person. You have to be actively anti-racist. You can't just sit around, because then that makes you an accomplice to racism. That's all it is.
Absolutely. Quick hits. We got another one here. Tucker Carlson went on the Joe Rogan Experience, made a lot of viral statements here. This is one that I found to be the most interesting. Everybody should go watch the whole thing, but this is him talking about how Congress people, our representatives, are afraid of the intel agencies. A little bit of a longer clip. I might just ask you to pause it at some point, producer Cody, but get it on the screen. Let's take a look and a listen.
That's all I'll say. By the way. No, I mean, people don't say that because they're worried about getting punished. They're worried about someone putting kiddie porn on their computer.
Right.
Members of Congress are terrified of the intel agencies. I'm not guessing at that. They've told me that, including people on the intel committee, including people who run the intel committee, the people whose job it is to oversee and keep in line these enormous secretive agencies whose budgets we can't even know. They're black budgets. They're the parents. The agencies are the children. They're afraid of the agencies. That's not compatible with democracy. Democracy is a really simple system, even representative democracy like ours. The people rule. They do so through elections. They express their preference through voting. They send their people to the capital city to run the government on their behalf. Whenever you have unelected people who are not accountable to anyone making the biggest decisions, you don't have a democracy. You have something else, another system. I would call it a tyranny or whatever you want to call it. It's not a democracy.
All right,
so that's like super obvious.
So basically what we have right here in this clip from the Joe Rogan Experience with Tucker Carlson is the opposite to some extent of what Stacey Abrams says. Stacey Abrams says DEI, attacking DEI is attacking democracy. Tucker Carlson, on the other hand, comes out and says that that the attack on democracy is intel agencies that are essentially holding our politicians hostage. Is this shocking? What are your guys' thoughts?
Everyone's wondering why these Republican politicians are voting against the interests of the American people. It's because they did some weird sex stuff and they got blackmailed 100%, or they have an illegitimate child. People that go into politics tend to be weird, like weird people, and weird people have weird fetishes. And when you act upon those fetishes, CIA and FBI, they're watching. So, I feel like they should just air out all the dirty laundry at once, get it all out. And everyone's like, okay, cool.
You're kind of in politics, Fabian. Did you fuck a tranny or something? Is that what you're...
No, but trannies have tried to bang me, and I've said, thank you, but no thank you. I was gonna say, basically say thank you for being attracted to me, but not attracted to you.
But here's the thing,
not
too,
into
that I
that
want
kind of business.
And I know this might elongate the quick hit, but what I want to say is that what he's saying, though, is that you have good people that go into Congress and then they get threatened where they're going to put kiddie porn or something on your computer. You have people, good, God-fearing Christian individuals who are in Congress in which they fear the intel committees because they hold them hostage. And to some extent, maybe they're even experiencing a level of Stockholm where they feel the need to vote for these things and to almost be brainwashed into a certain ideology because of the hostage situation that they're in. That's my thoughts. David, what are yours?
Well, I mean, listen, I think now it explains why certain politicians campaign on a certain talking point or a couple talking points and what they're going to do when they get into Congress, and then do the full 180 when they get in there. So perhaps that's why. But yeah, I mean, I always fall back to that one video from, I don't know, gosh, it's been like 6-7 years ago when Trump pretty much just got elected. And Chuck Schumer went on Rachel Maddow's MSNBC show, and he was talking about how the CIA has all these different ways how to go after you. So Trump should watch out for that. One of these shows will definitely play that clip. But I mean, we've known this for a while, right? And I don't think Tucker says anything new. The one criticism I'll say about Tucker is that we kind of guess that's what's happening behind the scenes, but we haven't seen any like evidence. So I would love Tucker to like bring forward this evidence so we could actually be like, okay, look, this is actually what's happening. Because in that clip, that longer clip, he was talking about how he has sources, even congressmen themselves talking about how this is happening. So, you know,
Well,
I'd love to see the evidence.
I'll agree, but could we also, I mean, like maybe some of the evidence that we could try to look at would be like Madison Cawthorn before he left Congress trying to say that there's some like weird sex parties that he's been invited to. And I know he's a cripple, so like the chances of him being invited to some weird sex parties is minimal. That's a Dave Chappelle joke, by the way.
Yeah,
Don't
he's
laugh
like a
at it
door
because
guy.
That's hilarious.
But like, I mean, but then he got silenced real quick and he's not even in Congress anymore, said that he wasn't going to run again.
That's true.
Was it maybe because of pressure? Like, I'm not going to come out and say like, that's concrete evidence. I would like to see the concrete evidence, but when it comes to things that are that secretive, we won't necessarily get the concrete evidence, and we have to do with what we have. That's my thought. But we have one final quick hit coming up, and that's Alina Habba, one of Trump's attorney as well as spokesperson, absolutely destroying. She went off today and waged war against all of the crap that's going on against Trump outside of his courthouse today. Let's take a look and listen at this clip.
I have 2 teams of lawyers here today. He should not even be here today because he did nothing wrong. It is the epitome of a witch hunt. I just left where a judge asked us whether our cash bond, sitting in. Miss James wanted to argue and say that our cash somehow isn't green enough. We wasted time. The judge made a comment saying he thought that money market accounts could go down under the amount. He doesn't even understand basic principles of finance. But this was the man that decided that we owed money and my client committed fraud. We are going to attack every single one. 1 hour, the attorney general and that judge realized quickly that they had no idea what they were talking about. We came to an agreement that everything would be the same. We would modify terms, and that was it. This is where your taxpayer dollars are going, America. Right here. Witch hunt after witch hunt. President Trump's company was worth more in that case than it is now. And now what? We're here because of something that happened when he was in the White House that wasn't even wrong. It was not wrong. You hire lawyers to solve problems, lawyers solve those problems, you pay them. That's it. This is a joke. It's an affront to the American Constitution. It's an affront to our judicial system. And it's an affront to every lawyer that cares about their license, that cares about what is right and wrong. I am sick of coming in front of the press and saying this, but you have to because you people need to understand what is going on. God forbid you put an accounting thing in for legal counsel. It's legal counsel. And now our taxpayer dollars, my time, our attorney's fees, are all here because they're afraid of 2024. And you know what? They should be because the American people are not stupid. They see what's going on. Thank you.
Jesus. Okay. Well, that was absolutely fiery. Obviously, the Trump trials are heating up. Fabian, your thoughts?
Listen, I'd be that mad if I dealt with idiot activist judges every single day of my life too. I mean, think about how many curveballs she has to deal with on a daily basis because they're always trying to figure out how to get Trump and how to do this and this, and she's just like, "What in the hell are you guys talking about?" So, 100% agree with her.
Absolutely, David.
I agree with her. And look, Benny Johnson at the end of that tweet put 3 flames because she's a smoke show, and she delivered a heated statement there. So
David's got hearts in his eyes for Alina Habba. Well, everybody, that's our first edition of Kev's Quick Hits today. And thank you for watching Kev's Quick Hits. There we go.
Beautiful
theme
segment. I love it, boys. I think that does it for our show. We just went a little bit over our hour, but it was a fantastic show. I mean, we talked about all these fantastic things. If you're watching still, please smash that subscribe button, retweet, follow, like, whatever it is that you have in front of your screen. Smash all those icons right there. Not too hard because you don't want to smash your phone, or maybe you do, I don't know. But make sure that you also follow us for all the latest things that we're posting, especially the uncensored news on our Telegram group. You can scan that barcode right there, or you can just type in t.me/breakaway. Also, make sure that you tune in every Monday and Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern for our great show, the same show that you just watched today, the Breakaway News Show. We also have we've added a lot of show. I can't even remember our schedule now.
Yeah, we're gonna release a schedule. The new schedule's coming up, guys. You're gonna get a lot more of all of us, and even some people who you didn't even know were a part of the group. Well, now they are.
Yeah.
So a lot of really good, exciting things are going on. Make sure you follow Kev at Speechless Kev.
That's me.
David _ Kate, and myself, Fabian Lux. Make sure you follow Breakaway USA. You tell your friends, your family, your dogs, your cats, your parrots, your pigeons, everyone about us, because we're coming hard. We're coming fast. I sound a little weird, but it's okay.
That's fine. That is fine. I think we can end it on that note. Fellas, good night. Thank you for joining for a great show as always. I had a great time, and those Kev quick hits were a great way to go out tonight.
Hell
All
yeah.
right, see you guys.
Quick hits. Bye-bye.